It's been a couple of weeks since I've done my own video, but I wanted you to take the time just to listen without any influence of my voice in hearing the last 2 weeks of the indigenous voices and Christ-like leadership, the history, places of the colonization, the impact of colonization, and I hope that it has created a different heart and approach so that we can embrace and face a new way of ministry so that we are no longer being the people that are constantly doing missions and they are the perpetuating mission field. So we're gonna now take a whole new direction and focus as there are different elements of leadership that needs to be addressed and taken into consideration. And the life of David has been one of the most inspiring stories for me. And I believe that he was born in a time where there was only one king and he was pioneering in this area. He was like the first king. They didn't really have anybody they could sort of bounce off of, so to speak. And so we can see that Saul was rejected because he, as Samuel said in 1 Samuel 15, does the Lord delight in burnt offerings and sacrifice as much as in obeying the voice of the Lord? To obey is better than sacrifice, and to heed is better than the fat of ram. For rebellion is like the sins of divination, and the arrogance like the evil idolatry, because you have rejected the word of the Lord. He has rejected you, king. And so, I've been under different leadership over time, and every time that I've been under a leadership, I've always tried to give my best. But there was always this sort of, I don't know how to say what I want to say, but like, I knew that the continuation of the legacy of my grandparents and parents, and for it to continue, it could not submit to the Western structure. And I have been pioneering in this area, so it's been a real challenge to be able to articulate what I really want to say without saying it in a way that makes me sound like I'm a troublemaker. And so, my brother, he passed away not too long ago, and when I was a kid, he said to me, never give up, try harder, and do your best. And so, as I think about David as a leader in the making, and his story of all the prophecies that he had received and the way things were happening, he became the king's right hand man. He became the son-in-law of the king. He became the king's best friend, and it seemed like the pathway to his prophecies being fulfilled was just so evident. So it seemed like me being a third generation missionary and dedicating and doing what I did, it was a interesting journey of trying to navigate the complexities of life. And after being under different leaderships and being offered to go to the next one not so long ago, I decided that I needed to stop looking to leaders and look to the leader within. And in the book of Isaiah, if I'm not mistaken, it says, there's coming a time where a neighbor won't tell his neighbor to teach him the ways of the Lord, and he will give us a heart of flesh. And I think that something about the indigenous cultures and ways, and if we are willing as a Western culture to sit and listen, and we will see something new being birthed through all of this. And I really want to cultivate and foster a space so that we can talk about this and we can discover ways to move forward and how to heal from the past of so we can step into the destiny that God has for us. And so in your journey as a leader and pioneering in some areas that a lot of people probably haven't pioneered in before, it's a process, and you can never let it get to your head. You have to keep it to heart, and you to be a man after God's own heart, like in Acts says, where you seek to do what is God's will and not your own personal ambition, your own personal agenda, but what is it that God's really doing? And so when Jesus says his words, I do what I see the Father doing, and he can only do that because he takes time aside to pray. He goes to the mountain. He's connected with the Father. And so when we can walk in that level of understanding that I do what I see my Father doing, you are going about the Father's business. And so if anything happens, you don't take it personally. And so when we take things personally, we react out of anger, and then we do things that we wish we hadn't done. And so if you look at the story of David when he was running around the land of Judah for several years, and he was taking care of the sheep, defending and warding off the wolves, and the profession he had and what he did good. And so one time he was in a very low moment with no food, and the going was tough. And so he sent a request to Nabal for some food, and he was denied the food, and he got pretty angry. And he set out with intentions to kill him. And thankfully Nabal's wife came and stopped him to not do such an evil thing. And there was a time in the ministry with the indigenous children, we were expanding, trying to work with the volunteers, and we ran into some problems with a specific sister church under the organization church we were working with. And I tried several times to talk to the pastor, and I wasn't given the attention necessary so that the situation could be resolved. And there was a lot of stuff that came out of that, and some of it out of my own immaturity, that became lasting effects to that, which has led certain things to go cold, downhill. But God used those circumstances to teach us and mold us and help us to grow in that situation. And so through that, I took my foot off the accelerator and decided to not push it like I used to. And through all of that, God has led us in different directions, and it came to the point where we discovered that we can do an online school, and so we're pushing in that direction and just backing away from the local area that I grew up in. And it's been a painful process because sometimes you do not recognize or acknowledge that which you have done and what you are doing. And what I find is that Saul became jealous of David when the women started to sing. Saul killed his thousands, David killed his 10,000. And there is something about celebrating the victories that are greater than yours and other people's lives. And if we can celebrate other people's victories that do greater things than us, that takes a lot of vulnerability because they can become more powerful than you and overtake you. But David had a principle and established understanding that he would never take out the anointed one. And him living that standard kept a respect and line so that nobody would ever take his life. So he developed loyalty, he developed respect, and he developed this sort of like, I'm with it, in with it, with you kind of thing. And Saul crossed the line when he killed the priest, had the priest killed, and he was corrupted in the sense that he was jealous and he let his jealousy overtake his attitude to not let Abel live. He wanted to kill Abel. And so in this life as a leader, you're going to be able sometimes, and there are kings out there that are going to exterminate you and take your life. But don't be a king. Always be an Abel. And trust God. And believe in God that He will protect you, He will guide you in your footsteps, but you have to be wise as serpent and gentle as doves. There's a story that I'm trying to remember here. And it's just coming back now. And just recently, I went through a really awkward situation. And our picture was up in this one church that we've been supported for a while. And some member of the church asked if they could send a donation through this church that we had become members. And I requested permission, and long story short, they were going to give me the answer, but in that time period, the donation was sent, and word got back to me that it was denied. And it felt like being an ox muzzled to try to keep doing ministry, but you're not allowed to have access to that. And the dedication and the heart to the service that I've believe that God is calling me to, and not having the ability and right to help take care of your family, to sustain yourself in ministry, put me in a situation where like I was with David at a very low point. And from my past experience, I knew that I couldn't create that reaction. And so I had to do hard things that most people wouldn't want to do. I addressed the situation, the problem, long story short, and it was very hurtful, frustrating. And the Lord spoke to me and said, Dennis, I've anointed him to do this ministry, but I've anointed you too. And so if we can understand that God anointed the souls in our lives, and they forge in us the character that we don't want to have, and they become the understanding and a stepping stone so that we can go further. And it's not the success that determines how well we do. It's how fast we fail, that we learn from our failures, that we become successful. And so on this week's journey, we're going to be learning about David and his heart, his triumph, his failures, and you as a leader and a pioneering are going to make mistakes, and you're going to try new things. And what I love about the indigenous culture is it's so experimental. They allow you to experiment. They allow you to try things. They give you permission. And I think that's what most people like us that have the right attitude and right heart, a heart after God's own heart, a man after God's own heart, is that we don't have the permission. And I hope by the end of this course that we can know each other enough so that we can start growing and granting permission so that transcultural ministry can be extended and grow, because there is a lot of work out there yet to do of the over 2,200 tribes across the globe, across the equator.